Hi everybody, Scott here. So this is video number 6 in what was originally called the INFJ download series. I thought I'd finished the series at video 5, but more has happened since then that it's worth talking to. This might be a long video. Just trying to encapsulate all that's happened since the last video, which I did about 2 months ago, I think, or more. So, if you're watching this, if you've been watching the series in order, then this one was made over 2 months since video 5. And I've been meaning to make this video for a little while. There's been some challenges along the way, but in fact I came out here, I think it was either yesterday or the day before, and made about 20 minutes or more of the video and felt like I was in the zone. I was sort of speaking to what I wanted to speak to, and realized I wasn't recording. So I thought I'd postpone it, start again. So what I'm going to do in this video, similar to what I've done in the other 5 videos, is really just share my process with you over the last couple of months, and it's really just a testimony of what's happened and the things that I noticed and the things that occurred. Maybe when I've finished doing that, I might give some interpretation of what I think it all means, which is up for debate of what it could mean, but just to share what I've been noticing. I would like to take a moment just to let you know that I'm a professional counsellor and have been practicing since 2009. If that is of interest to you, feel free to email me, or if you would like more information, please visit my website. So I actually have a new setup now. I've got a whole new setup for making videos outside, so hopefully you won't be hearing any of the wind noise, and that the video will be stable with this gimbal that I'm using. So hopefully it leads to a bit more of a better video in that sense in regards to way of viewing it. Although I think these types of videos are probably just as better to just listen to as opposed to watching. But so what I'll do is I'll recap, hopefully quickly, the first 5 videos from how I remember them anyway, just to bring us into this video. So as you know, for some of you know, I started to share a process of rediscovering. Initially it was like, what am I going to use this channel for? What am I going to speak about? And feeling like I'd sort of walked to some degree, at least, I mean, I could make more videos about the INFJ personality type, but the passion wasn't there, the focus wasn't there. So much has happened since I made those videos like 3 years ago, both in the world and in myself, that I feel somewhat detached from that focus. I feel more attached, I think, to other things. But being mindful of what this channel's been, it's been sort of hard to, how am I going to reorientate things? How am I going to change the focus? Which is essentially what this process is all about. So I knew going in that it meant me integrating myself more, not just in myself, because there's some things that already are integrated but just never came through on the channel, but this idea of sort of integrating myself in a way that will translate on the channel in order to speak to different concepts and different ideas, all still on the realm of personal growth and all of that. But so I thought I'd document the process, and what it's led to. Yeah, there was that awareness of sort of that I sort of separated my 2 channels up. So I had sort of the MBTI, INFJ sort of focused channel, and then another channel that was focused more around what I understand as sort of more Christian principles, spiritual principles and things like that, and this idea of bringing them to those two together. As you would have seen in those videos if you watched them, that there was this sort of dilemma within me, which is there's been sort of a community and subscribers that have gathered around the old concept that will probably not resonate, not everyone will resonate with the change, and sort of feeling like losing people would, I don't like that idea, or at least, because the thing in me is about reconciliation and unity, and so there's this dichotomy or this paradox of, by unifying myself more, I may alienate some of my viewers, or some of my viewers will drop off, which viewers drop off anyway. You know, people come and go, and the channel slowly grows. But so it's been kind of wrestling with that. You know, I'm just trying to remember exactly all of the ins and outs of things, but along that journey, I guess, just to try and speed things up a bit, that there was this idea of reconciliation with self, that this coming together of the rest of me, if you like, and then as I was going that journey, I was watching what was going on in my country of Australia, seeing the political upheaval that was taking place, you know, over these last couple of years, since about December 2019, if you get my drift, and seeing the upheaval of all of that, and which led me to some videos that were talking about true unity within the country, in the sense of, you know, one country, one people, one flag, one, you know, just a sense of unity with the people. And it was being spoken by Aboriginal people or First Nations people in the country. And it really struck me, really hit me really hard. Because I've heard that sort of language before in this country, and it never felt real. It didn't feel true. And then it started to feel, it felt very true with the people I was hearing this from. And essentially elders, First Nation elders, sovereigns, as they have called themselves, and this calling together of the country to unite as one people, to move forward, and deal with essentially the tyrannical government that has emerged over the last couple of years, which I won't go into here yet, or just not at the moment, but that's where it's sort of coming from. And seeing the beauty of the language that was being spoken, and just sort of felt, oh, that's interesting. Like, I'm sort of feeling on my own personal journey this call from this sense of a calling, or me sort of, as you know, the INFJ upload essentially is really me saying I'm talking to God, and then I felt when I was watching the Aboriginals talk about unity, that it was like a confirmation of what was going on in me, and then it felt like it was a confirmation of what was going on for them. Like, there's something in this. God is doing something here. And there were a number of things that happened that felt like a confirmation that there's something definitely going on in this. This is not my imagination or anything. And as I said in those videos, I noticed 444 in a video that I linked in, I think, video 3 or video 4, where the First Nations people were speaking. It was a 10-hour long video, and I put in there, I was looking for the right place to sort of do a timestamp so that people could go straight to what I was talking about. And I noticed that it was 4 hours, 4 minutes and 40 seconds or something like that, 4 hours, 40 minutes and 40 seconds into the video, which is that. The reason I noticed that is because I used to wake up, for about 6 months, I used to wake up at 4:44 not every morning, but many mornings over like a 6-month period. And I was like, that's weird. What's going on? It got my attention. So this was a long time ago now. But for some reason, I guess when I'm sort of in this kind of search, I'm open. And I think it enabled me to see the 444. In fact, yesterday or the day before, when I was making this video, or trying to make this video, and realized I wasn't recording, I was standing at about this spot when I talked about the 444 side of things. And as I said it, I looked over there and saw a big number 4 written on a sign at the race course. I don't know what that 4 means, maybe 400 meters or something, but it was just really weird to have disconnected with that idea, like in the sense of, the 444s stopped happening. But then as I'm coming to make the video talking about the 444s, I see a big 4 right in front of me. Anyway, it was just a weird moment. Sorry, this video is taking a while, but I guess to get into the new content. But you can look at those videos and see the 444 situations that kind of led to a bit of I've got to pay attention to what's going on here. Maybe that sums up those videos in a sense, I think. I might come back to certain things, but there was just that sense of individual unity, sort of honoring myself and bringing myself back together. And then there was this sense of, this is happening nationally too. There's a call out to the people of the country to unite together as one people, in a sense of true unity.
For those that may wish to support my video making, I do have a Patreon account. Support can start at as little as $1.50 Australian per month. In exchange for your support, you're able to access the videos about 1 week before they go live on YouTube.
Now, that's basically where I left, I think, those 5 videos. And I just went on after that for a couple of weeks and thought, well, that was that. And that's, but there were some things that I noticed in some of the videos I was watching with the First Nations people that got my attention, but I didn't have anything, there was nothing I could, they just sort of stayed in the back of my mind. And I was speaking to someone who had been watching the videos, and we were chatting about a range of things. And as they were sharing, we were sort of just bouncing ideas around and stuff. And as we were doing that, that's right, this person was talking about the Adam and Eve and the fall. And I heard in a like a fresh revelation of the seriousness of the fall from a woman's perspective. Now, it was probably more the timing of that conversation than anything, because I was aware of, obviously, the betrayal. How Adam, an interpretation is that Adam wanted to be like God, and so if someone was going to die, because God said, if you eat of this tree, you will die. And I think Adam was like, well, if someone's going to die, let it be Eve. But I'm curious to see what will happen. And then he allowed the serpent to deceive Eve. And so there's like a double betrayal in that. Now, of course, Eve has a responsibility in this as well, and that's fine, and that's to be acknowledged. But it was just very, very striking to me, hearing it from a female's point of view. And the reason for that was I had already experienced the power of the First Nations people gathering at our nation's capital, calling for a true unified country of everybody. And it's the reason it was powerful for me was because it's one thing for the rest of Australia to say, hey, look, there were some problems in the past, but let's get on with it. Even though I think that's a fair thing to say, it's one thing for the rest of Australia to say it. It's another thing for the one who had a lot of wrongs done to them to say, essentially, I forgive you, and let's build a relationship. Let's unite together. There's something, even though the argument of, well, we didn't do anything, it was generations before and all of that, it doesn't matter. It's just this sense of let's unite, and it's different coming from the peoples that were the ones that had a lot of damage done to them. And so I heard it in that lens when I was talking to this person. And I was thinking, it's one thing, I guess it would be one thing for Adam to go to Eve and say, sorry, my mistake, my selfishness, my desire for power, so on and so forth. Will you forgive me? Now, again, nothing wrong with that. But I think there's something else about Eve coming to Adam and saying, I release you from what you did to me. Let's build unity. I'm hoping this comes across. I just heard there's power in that. So we were talking about that, and I was thinking about some of the things that the Aboriginals were saying, the First Nations people. And one of the things they said was that the woman's law is over, it trumps the man's law. Like the Aboriginal women's law trumps the Aboriginal man's law. Now, it's probably all interconnected, but for some reason the woman's law was over the man. And it's interesting that I listen to that through these sort of Christian ears, where it's like, well, that sounds a little odd, because man is the head, and that's the teaching anyway, and all of this sort of stuff. Even though I've come to, obviously a long time ago, that it's mutual submission. It's man, like women, I'm sorry, I can't think of it exactly, but it's like, wives, respect your husbands, husbands, love your wives. And when the two do that, there is unity in that, and blessing. And so, I've lost my train of thought, but anyway, I was thinking about this, and somewhere in the midst of the, so much was happening inside and within me and everything when I was having this conversation. But I was starting to think, it's like on a more, when it comes to the world, it's like I almost got this sense like the Aboriginal people, the First Nations people, are representative of the Eve side of things, the woman side of things. And that, I'm not sure exactly what it means, but like the sense of, the rest of the world represents the male, and maybe it's like, they talk about Mother Nature, and that the Aboriginals, their law, they say, comes from the earth. And so it's almost like they're representative of the female side of things, the Eve side, perhaps. And they're and the rest of, maybe it's like Western culture with its system. It's like the Aboriginal law comes from the earth. The Western law comes from commerce, comes from money, and there can be something that can be destructive. And so it's this idea that the feminine is coming through the Aboriginal people to say, we're ready, and like we as in the world is now ready to reconcile together, the male and female. And so this again was connecting in with God, I feel like, is saying, like, Scott, you need to bring yourself together. You need to sort of reunite with yourself. And then I'm noticing it happening nationally. Like there's a call nationally for the country to come together. And then through that message is coming men, the woman or the feminine, something like that is coming to the man saying, we need to reconcile. Now, everyone's individual situation is different. This is just a sense of what I think is happening. Because there'll be people that have had very painful relationships that have tried to make it work and all of that. This is not a condemnation message to that at all. Just as almost a side note, really what I'm talking about is where when it comes to unity within marriage, that it is when the man and the woman are of goodwill, even if it's dysfunctional goodwill, want the best for the other or trying their best, that unity, that journey towards unity is possible. And I'm aware that there are other relationships where unity is just not possible. So when I talk about the woman coming, or the feminine coming to the masculine saying, we need to reconcile, I'm not speaking to any individual or anyone's particular circumstances. I'm speaking as it's almost like there's an atmosphere that's changing at the moment, sort of spiritually, that means that kind of unity is possible. Now, as I was talking to this person about all of this, a lot of what I've just said was going on inside of me. I was like my brain was like connecting all of this stuff together and wondering if there's a connection. And out of the blue, this person said, the fall needs to be undone and the woman will do it. And even as I say that, I'm like, man, it just hits me in the chest. Now, theologically, that statement might sound a little odd, because some might say that Jesus dying on the cross and being resurrected, he undid the fall, and that is true. He did. He undid the fall and the curse of the fall, but it doesn't mean we're living in the fullness of that. And it's a bit like that. I think it's called eschatology or something, where it's like when we become aware of Christ and who he is and what he did, and accept that we're immediately, the term is like born again. We can be born again of the Spirit in him, and that on a spiritual level that is complete. But the outworking of it is a journey, is almost like a lifelong journey, as we go through life wrestling and dealing with life and finding the becoming more like Christ-like in that process. So there's this idea of we're complete but not yet. And I think that's the, I think that's the case when it comes to the fall on a relational level, that Jesus's resurrection opened the door to now it's possible to have heaven on earth. It's possible to create Eden on earth, this idea, and it's possible to have the kind of unity that was available prior to the fall, and that work was complete. Completely, it was complete. But in each of our lives, not yet. We're a work in progress. In fact, we can be in a marriage and have times of deep unity, and then times like just have to have a disagreement on something, and feel the separation, where the reaction occurs, and that unity ain't there. So we can choose to be in heaven or hell at any given moment, really, depending on our response to things. But when this person said that phrase, it just knocked me for six. Yeah, I was just like, there's something going on here. There is just, so now there's this like individual opportunity and call to have unity within self. There's a national call for unity, and now there's like this cosmic kind of Adam and Eve moving into a deeper reality of working towards unity within marriage that maybe God's calling us to. It's almost like it's available now. And I think if that's correct, if that's what's happening, and I'm not claiming it, I'm just talking about my own testimony of what has been happening and what I'm sensing, is what was I going to say? If that's happening, yes, the reason that is happening, I believe, is because everything is being done. Like, I'm not sure if other people have felt this way, but over the last couple of years, I've felt this, like this, I'll use the language that makes sense to me when it comes to this stuff, like a spirit of lawlessness that has just been unleashed over the world. There's so much stuff going on that is questionable when it comes to the way the people are being treated, the behavior of people in leadership and all of that, that it's just like, now, I think that lawlessness existed underneath the surface of society, but it's like it's come out into the open, and there is a direct assault on humanity, and it's trying to, as it has for a long time, but more so now, I feel like there's this there's this divide and conquer going on all over the place in every way possible. And I think it's trying to destroy humanity. And during lockdowns and all of that, online, these videos started to surface of authorities treating women very badly, at least in this country. Now, I don't know if some of them were staged or if they were real, all the real events, and they were just put out there to intimidate and to scare the people. But there were videos of a police officer strangling a woman in the street. It just video of police arresting a mother and her child at the park, or at least that kind of thing. And it's like wow, like this is, something's going on here. and we could go into more of that sort of thing, but just that general sense of this attack on the feminine, and noticing that over the last couple of years, and then having this, what I feel like is a revelation that the Eve, the feminine, is something's going to take place, or something's taking place that's going to bring. So like, it's almost like there's an enemy out there that's trying to destroy the fabric of relationship, destroy and confuse society to such a point that they don't know how to have relationship anymore, and how that affects the marriage, and that relationship between the man and the woman, I think is very crucial at trying to divide and conquer. And it seems to be winning. You know, the world is going mad in lots of ways. But so that's what really I really took notice of, was that this. So out of my experience over these last number of months, the message that seems to be coming through is that God is going to, out of all of this chaos that's going on, out of all of this drama, God is going to bring about a deeper unity, a deeper intimacy, a deeper everything, like holistically, like in the self, like in the individual, within marriage, within nations. Like, it's actually all of this energy and all of this lawlessness is going to actually, it's like it's coming to the surface in order to be dealt with, so that greater unity is possible in the world, like almost like of biblical proportions type of thing. So I've felt this sort of responsibility, just in regards to my own, how am I holding this? In regards to my own sense of responsibility of, I think I've got to put this out there. I think that's essentially all I need to do, is just put it out there. Like, this is what I've experienced, this is what I've noticed. And it's like, speak it into being, in a sense. And I think this is going on all over the place, I think. And so, like, I don't think it's my message to humanity. I think it's the message to humanity, and I've somehow managed to maybe grab a hold of it and I'm going to speak to it. Now, it might all sound a little bit woo-woo, the way in which I've said all of this, but essentially the message is, good things are going to happen. Where there was chaos, there's going to be order. Where there was attempt to control every inch of our lives, there's going to be freedom. Like, there's going to be the opposite of what is being intended, and there's going to be a greater unity within nations, and within, at least it's possible, at least it's available. And I say yes to that. Now, somewhere along the line, and I've always, like, within my own understanding of this, prior to all of this happening, I was a believer in all of this. It's like I've had a fresh revelation, or there's something's happening that brings all of this into more of a focus. But I kind of look at, so I guess it's my own theology, I look at all the problems of this world are a result of the fall. Every single one of them. That broken down of relationship between God and His creation, and therefore between His creation, has had a flow-on effect of complete destruction. And so the opposite then must be true. The answer to every problem is unity with God and unity with others, or unity unity, especially, I guess this concept is within the concept of marriage, like unity in the marriage can heal the world. The God component is paramount, though. I think any unity that tries to be, this isn't completely true, like it's not legalistic in that sense, but I think for it to be really powerful, there needs to be the God component in amongst the relational component, because I think it's hard for us to live united with others, I think, outside of that relationship. At least, yeah. So, anyway, like a couple of nights ago, like maybe on the weekend, I think. Just trying to remember how it all went, how it all happened. But my wife was doing some research on her computer. It was Saturday night, and I was watching a movie. It's kind of funny because the movie was the Avengers' latest movie, I think, called Endgame. I just thought I'd watch that, and I was halfway through that movie, or near the end of that movie. I don't think it totally relates, but there was just the sense of, I was watching, like, within this movie, like the end times battle. It was like an end times battle at the end of this movie where everyone comes together to fight the enemy. And I paused it as I was watching this, the beginning of the end, I guess, of that movie. Or somewhere in that movie anyway, it was just like I had this moment of clarity. And it's like, I'm having all of this awareness, I've been seeing all of this stuff happening, and then it was like all of that culminated into like this moment of clarity where it was like, where sort of, it landed in me. And it was like, unity in the marriage is the answer to everything. Like within the God relationship, that focus and achieving unity, maintaining unity in the marriage is the answer to all the problems of life. Like, you just imagine if the fall didn't happen and there was complete trust and unity with God and with each other, the blessings that would come out of that. Just, I mean, the world would look very different to the way the world looks now. And I think that's what's on offer going forward. That that we're moving into a time, this is maybe my interpretation, we're heading into a time where a deeper unity within ourselves, with our relationship with God, and the relationships around us, our marriages, can move in a different kind of way. And so if the fall came with a curse, in a sense, with all of this brokenness and misery and destruction, then the reversal of that fall and the healing that comes with reversing the fall will come with many, many blessings. And I think I get the sense, and my hope is at least, that it's like God's saying something like, we're moving into a time where everything that's being done to humanity won't amount to anything, in the sense of trying to create all this division. And there'll be a time where people will be able to move more easily, and maybe it will be because of the destruction of the plans of an enemy to create all of this division. There'll be an ease, or it'll be easier to move in unity with our fellow man, within our marriages. Like there's something like that. It's both available now, I think, but I think we're also moving into it. So I had that experience. It's like, it was like all of a sudden everything became absolutely crystal clear. Focus on unity in your marriage with me, like with God, and let that do what it's going to do. And in that sense, it's like, take your eyes off of the problems of this world, take your eyes off of this, that, and the other thing, and put it in that direction. Anything that comes against that is the enemy. And out of that will come a blessing. So I hope that makes sense. Now, there's definitely going to be some things that I've forgotten to say that might be key to the story, and maybe I could do a follow-up, but I've already been talking. Oh my goodness. As I look at the time to say what I was just going to say then, it was 40 minutes and 44 seconds long. It's crazy. So I think that means I've said what I've needed to say. Definitely going to be some things that I've forgotten to say that might be key to the story, and maybe I could do a follow-up, but I've already been talking. Oh my goodness. As I look at the time to say what I was just going to say then, it was 40 minutes and 44 seconds long. If you've made it to the end of this video, then you really are a subscriber. Not many people. I feel like this video is for less than 1% of the, like I remember saying from the INFJ sort of stuff, like I make videos for the 1% of the population, and I think those sorts of videos are for the 1% of the 1%. I feel like these videos now are for the 1% of the 1% of the 1%. Or at least that's probably the proportion of people that will be interested in a video like this. Although I think the video is for everybody. So, has to be for everybody. And this video is for humanity, for people. It's not against anything or anyone. So yeah, I think I've said what I've needed to say. I'm sure there will be other aspects, but I'll get back to that. I never know how to finish a video, except to say that I will see you in another video.